Welcome, everybody, to the Empowering Process podcast. And today I get to have a conversation with Jonas, otherwise known as the Love Messenger. And she is the founder of the Lotus Path. We're going to talk about our experiences and transformation, about gratitude, about soul contracts, about internalizing and alchemizing experiences, and a whole bunch of things. I hope you enjoy our discussion today as much as I did having it. Welcome, Anne. Well, and here we are with Anne Jonas, and her and I are already having fun. So come and join us. And we are going to talk about gratitude and bewilderment. And who the hell knows what else? Because we're just going to let it flow, right? I think, Anne, I think you're going to be my best friend.
I already felt that. I felt the mirror of greatness in our short conversation. Yes, beautiful.
Right. And talking about mirror, one of the truths that I struggled with accepting was that people are mirrors for me, and that I creation is by me, for me, right? And so when I'm in a relationship that is out of sync, if you will, let's use that, I'm like, well, I didn't create this. I didn't create this. I didn't do that. And of course I did, right? Because sometimes I have to remind myself, right? The awakening is remembering, and then we go to sleep, and then waking up, and then so it's a wave. It's not straight. Remind myself that this is not in alignment, and when someone is no longer in alignment, it's okay to say I love you, goodbye, right? And that sometimes alignment is there and then it's not, because we are all constantly changing, and it's not a bad thing. No blame, no shame, no anger. We're just going on different paths, and maybe you'll come back together, maybe not. And so you're just laughing and shaking your head.
Yes. I am laughing and shaking my head because I know that that's what this life is. And there's layers to this experience. You talked about, people say, why would I create that? Why would I create that? That's a horrible thing, because it's bringing you to the greatest version of who you are. We talk about, the experiences that are happening for us, and we set it all up. Sacred contracts, right? Has anyone heard of that before? And that concept, and you talked about you're ready to release, to let go, because you received that experience of what that contract was designed for.
Right.
When the contract is completed, it's going to feel
icky.
Yeah, and it's like I was going to say it felt icky before because it probably brought up some other stuff, but there's a shift in it being the lesson and being done.
Yes.
And that's a subtle thing, actually, to it's funny because I say which I rarely use that word, but honestly, I feel because it's calling in this sense of, yes, that's a clarity that I am now familiar with, where whether it's a person, a home, a job, a type of food, a habit, a ritual, that it was it was uncomfortable for a purpose. And then you complete what you were here to learn through it, from it. And then the next step is actually letting it go, right? It doesn't necessarily go away.
And I want to say, maybe not letting it go. what I experience, or what I perceive I experience, because who the hell knows what's real. Um, so let me put my story on it, is that I alchemize it. When I alchemize it, I no longer have to think about my intention or think about it, the change, because I become it. And one of my recent comments in the podcast is coming out January 1st, I mentioned this with Franco, is Gandhi said, be the change. Alchemizing is becoming the change. That's what
Yes.
he was talking about,
Yes.
right?
And it's also recognizing that we are creating everything. We are creating everything. This is the matrix, this dimension of Earth. Okay, were we going to go there, Gail? I didn't know if we were going to go there, but
I'm going to expose the lies of the matrix. Go ahead.
yes, this this location in the multiverse, this choice, there's the beginning. This is a choice. It's a choice to incarnate as human. It's a choice to be here on Earth. All of it then are subsequent choices. And everything that is wrapped in this earthly human experience is wrapped in our birth experience, which is contractions and expansion.
In
Like
order to grow and
it's a
learn.
hug. Yes, and it's a hug of a uterine contraction and a push through a small space to exist.
Right. And
Right?
as you choose to push through, you're thinking, what have I chosen to do? Right?
Exactly. There's
I,
that
I have a
but that
client.
see, then that goes into amnesia, that
Yeah.
voice, because that voice couldn't exist in this physical form. That voice being the light of our higher self. That's who that was. Who am
Right.
I? Who am
Right.
I? The layers, right? That voice, like, what did I do? It's like being on a roller coaster ride and they're like, it takes off. And you're like, oh, I waited in line for hours for this, right? And then what did I do? And the cool thing is that that's the beginning of this experience. That's the beginning of being human.
It's crazy. So I have a client who years ago, when we started working together, said, I remember being spirit and saying, oh, I can do that. I'm love. I have so much love. I can handle that story. She said,
Mm.
Gail, as soon as my soul was entering the uterus and I felt what my mother was going through, I screamed, no.
Oh my goddess. Yes, yes. That's it. That's the comedy right there.
Right.
That's that's the moment when we which it's so wild to think about. I mean, I worked as a birth doula for 12 years and
Mhm.
I've been around a lot of women in various stages of pregnancy or attempting pregnancy or losing losing pregnancies, right? And the power of the incarnation. And it's so interesting to think about that they think that they're losing a child, right? It's
Yeah.
that life that says, I'm not going to do this, or this is all I'm here for, or whatever it may be, right? I mean, that's really powerful to think in the terms of higher self choosing a life, not whether or not I can actually, as a human being, make a baby, right? That's that whole that's where's God in the mix there?
Right. Right. And so I do some Akashic record work and soul realignment, which is your soul as its first creation intention, right? And sometimes I'll get two, and because the original one comes in and a soul guides the first one in, right? And that soul is either pulled in or says, oh, heck, I'm going to do this too,
Interesting.
right?
That's
And
an
then
interesting.
right? And then which soul is the predominant soul? And that's the one that I will do the reading on. is the predominant
It's
soul.
almost like twin souls that
Yes.
incarnate and I'm familiar with the concept of a walk-in, right? The idea of someone who halfway through a human's experience, there's like a soul shift.
Yeah.
It's interesting you talk about somebody who is soulless, and it's usually in deep addiction or major trauma, and or physical, their physical body is dying, right?
Mhm.
The soul is like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm done. I'll just let you sort of decompose, right? It's powerful how much we don't, as a human, give credit to the soul that decided to exist
To
and
be
become
here
us, to
and
become us. Yeah.
communicate with we well, I don't know about anyone else because I only know what goes on in my head. So I'll just talk about what goes on in my head. So I can only assume that others have the same phenomenon where there's a conversation going on.
Yes.
Well, there has to be more than one voice if there's a conversation going on, right? Have you ever felt conflicted? Well, part of me wants to do this and part of me doesn't want to. Well, what part are you talking about? Right?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And there's more than two parts. Because there's many layers of who we are. And there are many voices and so people who hear voices they don't filter them, but there are many voices. When I talked to Franco, one of the things I said at his introduction, he had a near-death experience. January 1st, of course, this will be aired after that. He had a near-death experience and at 6 months old. So his whole childhood, he was opened up to these voices. And it wasn't until he was an adult that he decided to, I think I better get to know what's going on. And he calls his connection Caleb, just like Esther Hicks calls hers Abraham. But
Yep.
it's not one voice. It's given, we give it a name like God so that we can personify the experience so we can understand it in the third dimension.
Yep.
But honestly, I know I can't explain what goes on here because it's at a different vibration, a different energy. And to bring it into the third dimension, and I tell people, when you get inspired and then you create the picture, you've just distorted it. Then you added words and you just distorted it. And you try to communicate it so it goes through your belief systems and you just distorted it. So it's not pure by the time we try to create it. Right.
Yet its essence is there, right? And
Yes.
that's really what is the desire for the design, is the essence. And it is going to be created by the unique stamp of the individual. That's the other piece of this. We all are here. Well, that's the reality, is we're all creating this. It's a holodeck.
Yeah.
Earth is a holodeck. I love
Yes.
Star Wars. I was raised with Star Wars. So, I'm 55. I'm born in 69. So I was like 8, 9 years old going to see Star Wars. My brother and I just remembered a Hanukkah with the lightsabers. Like it was
Oh, yes.
like if anybody is Gen X, I mean, when those came with the flashlight and the tube, I mean, it was
It was heaven.
next level. I'm like, I'm seeing your words behind you. It was next level. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent, but on the holodeck, you go and you program some numbers, and then where you are, you could get hurt, you could get married, you could have sex, you could drink wine, you could die, and then it's over,
And
and
then leave the holodeck and go
you go
back.
back to the starship as a crew member.
That's this experience.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Right. And so I can intellectualize that. I've intellectualized that for a long time. What I've done over the past year is internalize it. I haven't alchemized it yet, but I've internalized it. Right. Which means I can feel that experience of
Yeah.
I'm not this third dimension really isn't in control here.
Right.
Right? Now, my free will, ego, can ignore the direction that I'm getting. But what happens to me when that happens is the direction gets louder. Like, has anyone been hit over the head with a brick? You know, I've been thrown through the brick wall, right? It's like, okay, I got it. So, you know, my conversations have been, oh, you know, just help me be a little bit more aware so that we don't have to go that far. Right. And this past year, my conversation with the universe, with God, with Allah, with Christ, whatever you want to call it, right, was, I don't want to turn to you for help anymore. I don't want to turn to you for direction, support, or advice. I don't want to turn to you when I'm in pain. I want you here with my joy, with my fun. I want you with me every day. I want you to be at the computer with me. I want you to be in my life.
And do you know whose job that is to make that happen? Yes, ma'am. That's right. Our lovely leader is pointing at herself, and that's the essence of the book that I'm writing, is what you spoke.
Beautiful.
Which is God is here all the time. I live a life of synchronicities, a series of synchronicities. That's my life. Everything is woven together. Everything has meaning. Everything is connected, even in the pause, and especially in what we consider wrong.
The pause is okay. So here we go, guys. If you've listened to me, you'll hear this over and over again. I used to dance. I used to compete in dancing. And when I was learning Argentine tango, my instructor said, Gail, the dance is created in the steps between.
Pause.
Right? Because it's how you take that step that creates the flow of the dance.
It's the movement from one to another.
It's the movement from one to the other. It's not, it's how you do that transition. Right. And you could do staccato, or you can do.
I say, even in staccato, it's
Right.
funny. I just led a 5 rhythms drum circle the other day, and it's funny because I love this, the pause. People get weird about the pause, the pregnant pause. Everything's about the pause. And you know, in speaking, if you don't have a pause, like, that's an issue. You need a pause when you speak, even to yourself.
Yes.
Whether it's to 1, 1,000, or the mirror. I love that we're talking about this, and I love that we have the dance connection, right? Because that's so much a part of learning the pauses with the body.
Right. The body. Right. So the body, to me, and this is all opinion, guys, you don't have to agree with me, but this has been based on my experience, right? Not on books
I love the way that you offer
your disclaimer.
That. Disclaimer, that's the word, the disclaimer. And I'm like, but guess what? We're both right. So it's good.
But
like,
that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. So Basha says, we all have our own unique frequency. True. That's what makes us a snowflake. Right. And the body is an antenna to pull in that frequency. Now we can screw around with that antenna. So when I received a diagnosis called cancer, that was me screwing around with the energy, and it was blocked energy. And I spent time untangling the web.
You created a situation. You know what? Cancer to me isn't, I don't use that word diagnosis for anything. It's a situation.
It's a situation.
You created it. Yes, you created it, and then you uncreated it.
It was created for me.
Exactly. For you. Yes.
It was created for me. And it was.
And you created it for you. That's the fun part.
Right. And so we can go into, you know, I knew when I was like 20, when I was 20, 21, my first husband, I had said to him, would you still love me if I got breast cancer? Because he was so surface. Right. And I felt he wouldn't.
Interesting.
right? Yes. So,
And yet that wasn't about him. That was about you dancing in a future timeline of your own, right?
right, right, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. And so these things, and so did I bring it on then? No, no. And I talk about it in my book, Lessons from Hell.
Ah.
And I talk about when my friend Franco told me, and I mentioned it again, told me that I was going to have a death experience and come out with the Christ energy, which we all have. It's not anything magical. Um, it's just
Mm.
acknowledging it and being aware of it. That's
Yes.
magical, right? And so this is why when that journey was laid before me, I went, oh, so this is it. Okay, right? Okay, okay. Let's go do this dance. Let's do it
Wow.
and let's do it together, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
I have tears in my eyes. There's
yeah.
so many things. One is I'm reading a book called From Bethlehem to Calgary, which is all about Christ. Um, it's funny, I went to bed early last night, woke up at 3:29 on the dot, and had this crazy 2-hour experience in the middle of the night that was all synchronistic. It was like I opened to something on Facebook, and then I went to the bathroom and opened a book, and everything that all led to everything else. And then I journaled, and then it was like I was on my I was watching the ride as I knew it was unfolding. It was the wildest thing. And everything that you've brought in here now is so powerful. And my one of my powerful experiences was when my dad shot and killed my mom.
That
And
sounds
that
so
happened.
familiar. Tell me about it. Let's talk about that because I have another friend who's had that experience.
Yeah, I'll give you
Yes.
the brief version of it because it's a
Yeah,
long story. But
of course.
basically, at 11 years old, my parents got divorced. And 25 years later, my dad showed up at my mother's doorstep. There was a gun in a bag, and he shot her in the driveway. And the neighbor was there to witness, and that's how we have the account. And I went to my dad in the jail the next day, and it was like, what the? And he, that hour plus conversation, it was the clarity for me. So here I am within the next couple weeks navigating all the stuff to funeral, blah, 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 blah. We were at a restaurant, and I had this visceral experience of, oh, this is a spiritual experience. Like it wasn't my death, but I know that the Lotus Path, my business, that's
Right.
you have a Lotus. Everybody has a Lotus Path.
Right.
Everybody has mud. It's the human condition.
Lotus has to come up to the. I was just thinking that as you said that.
No
Right.
mud, no Lotus, baby.
Right.
So are there people walking around that don't have Lotus lives? Yes, they are. Because they don't recognize that they are living through the mud. They don't
Right.
celebrate. I'm all
Right.
about worship yourself Wednesday, toot your horn Tuesday. I'm all about acknowledging our greatness. And it comes through being willing to recognize what we're talking about, that you've created everything, that everything is happening for you, that there is nothing wrong.
Yes. And one of my powerful conversations, I guess, is you have permission to.
Mhm.
You have permission to feel the feels,
Yeah.
but detach the story from the feels.
Well, the story is what offers us the opportunity for the feels. What I feel is the next level of surrender is to be in the flow, right? That see, when we're the water, we're gonna come across rocks and twigs and all kinds of things, even a dam. It's for us to move through that. We cannot, and then we will change it. Like think about what the water does to the Grand Canyon. It's both this allowing and activation at the same time.
So I am Cancer, which is water. I have a friend who's an African shaman, and through numerology, I'm water, right? Through there was something else. So there were three different things that I went through, and all of them on water. So I'm water, right? Um, and so in one of the shaman circles I went to, the leader said, "So Gail is water. What does that mean?" I said, "Well, I can be the iceberg. I can be the tornado. I can be the gentle rain. I can be the flood. I can be the stream. I can be the ocean, right? And all of that, I can support life or I can take it away,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
Right. And I have been all of that during phases in my life, right?
Hmm. I'm sure.
Yes.
I see the fire in you.
Well, that's the dragon. It's so
Yes,
you're the one.
exactly.
Someone had said, "I see fire on top of water when I see you." I'm like, well, that's my phoenix and my dragon, right? But I'm
Yeah,
water.
flying over the water.
Yep, yep, flying over the water, and so in we talked earlier about when something is in flow, in synchronicity. If it feels right,
Yeah,
great. When it doesn't, it's okay to leave. And so
right.
I was with the group, and it was time for me to leave, no longer in alignment to what was going on at the time. I don't know who changed, it doesn't matter. And so the leader of the group, I met with him to let him know this just doesn't work anymore. And I said, here's the deal. I see me as being in a canoe or a kayak in the water. And sometimes I have to row, and sometimes I can just go with the flow. But I can't hang on to the rock because I'll be pulled out of the boat.
Hmm.
So I'm letting go of the rock because I have to go with the flow.
Mm,
And
yeah.
that's just it, right? And everything is okay.
That whole expression is exactly what's important now in our evolution of awakening consciousness
Right
is we've
now.
been on rocks. Everything is about the rock.
Yeah.
It's about the rock of education, the rock of medicine, which is not health and wellness.
Nope.
No, yep, the rock of politics. I
Politics.
was like, that was
Right.
easy. And then the
The
rock
rock
of
of
religion.
borders, the
And
rock of,
yeah,
right?
yeah, right, exactly. Government and rule, and then the rock of religion, and those are. Here's the thing: those pillars are all important for the third dimension. They're pillars. They're cement pillars. They hold up the matrix. The
Right.
matrix. The religion is. We talk about Christ consciousness. The teachers that have come from the many locations throughout the multiverse, the ascended masters, all those beings that have been here since humankind has existed and before, they're here as guides. We are here as guides. We all are here as teachers. And when we give over our power to another, that's a choice.
Right.
But it's literally what happens when we decide to be born. We're like, okay, I'm going to go get in that human body. We give over the power. That's part of the amnesia. Actually, it happens within the first 5 years. You
I was
see a
going to
baby.
say, I can remember.
5 years.
Yeah.
5 years is the story. You
Okay.
basically, it's a little story I wrote about in my chapter in my book. Love is Everything is the title of that. And there's this story. I heard it first from Wayne Dyer. I'm sure you know the story. The kid, the family, the couple has a baby, grows older, they have another baby, and the older kid says, I want to talk to the baby, like have some private time. And they're like, I don't know about that. What are you gonna do to the baby? So they listen outside the door, and the kid, the 4-year-old says, tell me about God. I'm starting to forget. Right? Because after that point, which it's interesting, that's usually when we start school, there's a correlation there, right? Maybe. But after that 5-year-old point, we're in the density of full on. We're in the full on density.
Right.
And then It's this incubation for our soul to hang out and witness. And then at some point, there's an awakening.
Right. We
And it,
forget, and what we're doing now is waking
yeah.
up.
And
Right.
it's happening at the people have been doing this all along. People have been talking about dark nights of the souls and awakening. It's funny. I was like, what's my special awakening moment? I've been on this path
It's
for
not a moment, it's a process.
but I'd heard, I was like, there, but they had an NDE, they did a thing. And I
Mhm.
know that I've had many awakenings,
Right.
right? And there were pivotal points
Right.
in my journey that have served to bring together
Right.
this awakening, which is I have a program called Sacred Connection. Not it's not a plural, because we are in connection, and that is connection with everything. It's the oneness of all that is.
One of the things I do when I do a meditation with people, I remind them that, do you know what you're breathing in? Well, oxygen. No, you're breathing in
Lovely.
life force energy.
Yeah.
If you don't
Which is
breathe, you don't
love.
live. Right. If
Yes.
you don't breathe, you don't live. So it's
Yeah.
life force and it's energy, right?
Yeah.
What are you exhaling? Poisons and toxins? No, you're
Right.
exhaling what the trees and the plants need. So you're symbiotically living on this planet. So you're
Yes.
breathing in life force energy and you're exhaling compassion for Mother Nature.
Yeah.
Right. So when you think of that, when we meditate, that think of that as the process. When I say breathe in and breathe out, that is what you're breathing in and breathing out. And they're like, well, I
And
never
it
thought of
is
it that
life.
way.
I mean, as far as the four elements go, fire, air, earth, and water, air is human life. I mean, it's actually really any animal life, because if they're not breathing, they don't exist.
Right.
Yet we can still be earth, be the bones. We can still be water. We can have fluid in our body and
Mm-hmm.
be, it's powerful what this, and it's interesting. I love that we're talking about this. I say during meditations, you're breathing in love, you're offering love. It's
Yes.
and yet we say don't breathe in a car, right? I mean, you breathe in a mask, and I mean, ironically though, you breathe in a bag to help with anxiety. Isn't that
Right.
funny?
Right. Well, it's right, because when we take a breath, we're not taking a breath because we want to bring in oxygen. We're taking a breath because our body wants to get rid of. And so that's how they balance, how your body
It's almost
balances
like
that.
the pushing out, like you have to push it out, you have to breathe it in.
Yeah.
It's wow, that's a wild concept. I love playing there
I love playing with ideas and concepts
all the
because
time.
all the time. Um, I question everything now, absolutely everything. So where's the truth in that?
So
Well,
you know
what if
what I
that wasn't
say?
true?
I don't question anything, but I'm curious about everything. How about that? Because there's that idea for me where, why question it? It exists. I created it, somebody else put it together. How about if I'm curious about the aspects of it? I have three questions that I love to ask myself and talk about. Where are my edges? What am I learning? How is this serving me?
And
There's no
how is
why.
it? No, no. How it's serving us, it's really a powerful and very important question. It's kind of like my permissions, right? Giving
Yeah.
yourself permission. Um, because if you're sitting there and guys, I've been there, so I'm talking from experience. So if you're sitting there miserable, and yet the next day you get up and do the same thing that you're miserable at, right? Don't be surprised that you have a crappy life,
Yeah.
right?
Well, we make our life. It's that simple. But
And
until you
let me just,
realize,
yes.
okay.
And if you don't, earlier I said, if I don't listen to the universe, it kicks me out. My
Yeah.
favorite story is the last corporate job that I really worked, not as a consultant. Okay. And the first day I walked in and I said, ooh, this is not the place for me. But I had moved 3,000 miles across the country. I was alone, and that I was getting good pay, and I had to support myself, and I didn't know the landscape. So I wasn't comfortable. Here's my excuses to look. I just didn't listen to my instinct. And I stayed. And it got worse. And I stayed. And it got worse. And it stayed. And it got worse. Even though I was getting promoted and, got a team and I had success at what I was doing, I was miserable.
You were dying inside.
How I fed my soul? That's when I became a dancer and competed.
Yeah.
I danced 5 nights a week or more.
Yeah. Well, that brought you into your body. That created a certain amount of balance.
Right.
Yeah.
I was hungry for it and miserable every morning and thrilled to dance every night, miserable every morning. And so I got fired.
Yes.
Surprise, surprise. Because the universe finally said, well,
that's called the gift of the universe.
Yes, if you're not going to leave, we can't get any louder.
Yeah.
Right? We're going to kick you out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I recognized that it was a gift. Well, I made a decision that I obviously done with corporate, and it was a gift because I had to find my own way.
Yep.
Right.
Well, this is what I say. We receive many gifts in this lifetime. Most of them come in ugly packaging. That's the deal. Everything is a gift. Everything, 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 because nothing is wrong.
The universe is an ugly gift wrapper.
Yes, sometimes bad bows and poor tape situations.
Oh my God, there's a book. There's a book.
Yeah.
The universe doesn't know how to wrap a gift.
Universe. The universe needs gift wrapping lessons. Oh my God, that's hysterical. I love that. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Sorry, universe. No, just kidding.
No, the universe is going to say, well, because you don't listen. Right?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, it's really, after my mom's murder by my dad, and my dad went to jail, and then he died a year and a half later. And then I met the person that I was to marry, that when a month before we got married, she went on a cancer journey. And so our whole marriage was cancer for her. And then we had my daughter halfway through that journey. So my daughter was 2 when my partner left the planet. And I'm not saying I'm grateful for their deaths, okay? I'm not saying I'm grateful. That's where gratitude and bewilderment have become my words, because I recognize that everything is serving, and I'm not here. And this is part of what I teach. We don't compare tragedies. I've had some gnarly tragedies, but I haven't had cancer. Physically, I was a caregiver. I came from California, where houses burn down all the time.
Earthquakes suck them up, right?
Yeah, I know. But I've never had my house burned down. I've never been physically assaulted. There are things that people have. There's different tragedies, okay? And our tragedies are aligned for us, for our journey, for our design, right?
Right. Our human design.
Our human design, exactly. That's a part of that as well. I mean, everything, when you are willing to see this as a container for your spiritual, your soul's, your higher self, God's experience and evolution, it makes these things so small and insignificant, yet they are the building blocks of this human experience. It's not about escaping them.
No.
It's about witnessing that we have focused our energy outward when the focus was designed to be inward.
Yes.
And that
experience, focus. It's like a pendulum.
And and be here now, be here now, be here now, right? This is that idea. I say when we're here now, NOW, we've won. Flip that word, WON, right? You've
Right.
won. And you're ONE, you're one. It's a homonym. You're one with everything. Being
Right.
here now, you're one with everything. And you are in the power, right? You know, power versus force.
I
Stephen
love
Hawking.
that book.
David Hawkins, not
Yep.
Stephen Hawkins, but yes, yes, I love the concept of putting down your sword of force, taking a breath. I saw you do that. That isn't that the powerful moment? Is it?
Right.
I was just reading this in the Christ book that I was talking about. That when you are allowing for recognizing that everything is serving, you are actually accepting everything.
So,
And nothing to
right.
force.
So there are like a dozen things that I wrote down here. Um, I know. So lessons and the Lotus. So we'll start with the Lotus, and then I want to talk about the Matrix. Um, I have said for years that the Lotus has to come through the mud, and it's a beautiful flower when it comes through. I literally have a client who is literally going through the mud. I saw her in the mud, right? And when I talked to her that day, she dreamt about being in the dirt, being in the mud. So what I saw was what she dreamt, synchronicity. I'm not surprised at all, right? And so sometimes when I need to be grounded and I don't know that I need to be grounded, my body just knows. I smell earth. I taste dirt, and it's delicious. Right? I'm like, okay, I need to calm
It's
down.
nourishing.
I
The
need to,
earth is nourishing.
yes,
Yes.
it's called Mother Earth for a
Yes.
reason, right?
Yeah.
And then the Matrix. Um, so the Matrix exists. I've been there, and in my meditation, I did a 4-hour meditation and was like, whoa, where the hell am I? Right? And the Matrix movie was based on the energy force that they found. The Matrix isn't an actual energy force. That's vibration and structure is exactly the same as our brain. It is the universal mind, right? So this is what I felt when I was there, like, oh, and this is where the direction is coming through to me.
Mm.
So the theory
Wow.
behind the movie The Matrix is we are being controlled by something else. We are not controlling. And that's true. And Neo, when he gave up control and he just said to the bullet, no, drop. And he looked at Agent Smith and said, I'm becoming one with you.
Yeah.
Done.
Well, that's it. Letting go, letting
Let
all of
go.
those 4 pillars we talked about are to control humanity. And
Right.
all you get to do, really all you have to do is release, let go, allow, surrender. And like you said, recognize that I'm complete with
Yes.
this. And it
Yes.
doesn't, I don't, like in that, I don't need to be shot by a bullet. Like I'm done. Yeah.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. No, it's okay. Neo did it for me. I believe that's true. And with the death experience, so I'm going to go out on a limb here. I have a friend who actually wrote a book about her husband. He literally went hunting and he bow and arrow hunts, right? They always, I love you, see you when you get home, always were present with each other. And his cousin, I think he was with, handed him a gun to hold for him. And when he put it in his pocket, it went off and killed him.
Oh my goodness.
So the love of her life left the house and never came back.
Mhm.
And absolutely devastated. But he has been here with her, guiding her. Twin flames. He showed her their past lives, and she wrote the story in her book of their past lives that he shared with her, right?
Wow.
And who she has become since his death, I said, he had to die so the
Mhm.
two of you can do this.
Yeah.
And
Well,
she
this
says,
is again the sacred contracts.
right?
I recently had a relationship after I was married, after my spouse died. I was in a relationship for 5 years, and I say that it was the most toxic relationship and brought me to the greatest version of myself. It brought me to my knees and brought me to the light. I am who I am because of that. And we are still friends, and we have still connected. And it wasn't an abuse. It was like both of us in our fear, trauma, defensiveness, which is probably most relationships, honestly, codependency being the writing factor, right? We are in relationship to tangle and untangle.
Yes.
And then you talked about your job. You're like, oh, I'm not sure. How many times are you like a relationship, a house? Oh, I'm not sure. And we call those red flags, right? Do we see the red flags? Do we not see the red flags? Here's the thing. Okay, let's say that now red flags are like, hey, here's a big e-ticket ride, folks. Like, here's a big life journey is this relationship, this job, this experience.
Right.
Get to say, consciously, okay, are we going to do that? Do we want to do that? Are we ready? You know what I'm saying? Like this
Well,
again.
didn't I say consciously? Okay, bring it on.
Exactly.
Right. This
Exactly.
is the journey I'm going on. Let's do this thing. But
Yeah. Well,
we'll
I think
do it
that's the point
together.
is,
We'll
are
do
we
it
living
together.
consciously or unconsciously? I feel like that is this whole conversation can be encapsulated in the choice to recognize that we are here and that we are here to experience life. Are you
Yes.
that or not? That is the question.
Right.
Because nothing is wrong either way, because there's
Right.
no wrong.
Right. And when people say, what is my purpose? Your purpose is to experience.
Mhm.
Well, what's my grand purpose? Now, some people are here. I am a mission realmer. So some people are here. Oh, hold on a second. Okay. I thought the washing machine was going to do some funny things for a specific purpose. But my purpose is still to communicate what my experience is.
Well, I would say that we all have a specific purpose. Some of ours are a little more grand
Okay.
or more like on a larger scale. But I say, your purpose is to raise a family, right? To be in your community, to be a fur baby mom, to be at your particular job. But here the thing is, everybody is here to offer something. And when we recognize that we're here mostly for God and for our own soul's journey, that's enough. That's enough of a purpose.
That is the only purpose that matters
Yeah.
in my perspective. And I could talk to you forever.
I know. I know. I get in these calls. I mean, this is my favorite thing to do on the whole planet is to talk. And I've been talking my whole life. But beyond that now, I know that these conversations are serving. I know they are. I feel it. I witness it. And I'm so grateful to be me. I'm so lucky. I'm so fabulous. And here's the thing, I'm special. I know that. Guess what? You are special.
Right. I am a specific
Everybody's special.
vibration, a specific
Yes.
frequency, right?
Yes.
And no
Yes.
one else is that frequency but me.
We're a unique stamp on experience, and we uniquely create our gifts, our challenges, our medicine, our evolution. It's very exciting when you look at it that way. And it's not at all anything to be afraid of.
It's
It's
fun.
empowering. It's an empowering way to exist. And, I have people in my life that have always thought I was really weird. They don't understand my work. They don't really,
I'm
and they've
called a
turned,
witch by my family.
yeah. I'm rainbow unicorn because,
Rainbow
like that's the
unicorn.
thing. Yeah. I'm like, and here, and people have turned away from me and I would be, but I'm saying all these beautiful things. Why don't you want, I had this whole journey of like, you talk about permission, this is another thing. Many of us think we're missionaries. I'm a permissionary and you are too, Gail. Here's the thing. Like we offer people permission and we also ask permission. I've learned to not force my stuff on anybody. And
Yeah.
so you're here, you gave permission to Gail and me to be listening, right? This is that journey.
Right.
But yeah, to take it to the next level, which is to say that we're all here for an important reason. And you are the only one that gets to know what that is. There's no one else. And not everybody is going to vibrate at the same frequency right now.
No, or ever. And
Yes,
this
for
is
sure.
why, I will say to my clients, to my children, to my friends, I can't answer for you.
Yeah.
I can ask questions. I can hold space. I can tell you what I would do, but that is me based on my experience, and it's not the right answer for you.
Well, and we all do know, I raised my daughter. When she would ask me questions, I would ask her questions back. Not because I was being difficult, but because I actually could feel that she knew the answer.
Yes.
And I was more of a conversation to extract the answer. And I believe that has helped her have confidence that she knows the answer from within. And I know in my life when someone, a partner or whatever conversation I was in, and I was being asked questions or parenting, and I would say, I don't know. Those 3 words that came out of my mouth were covering up that something was going to be painful. It was going to be painful for me to say it. I would be vulnerable.
Right.
Or it would hurt you because you wouldn't like it. And the thing is, we can't hurt anybody either. The 4 agreements, right? The 4 agreements. Don't take it personally. Don't make assumptions. Do your best. Speak impeccably. I love Don Miguel Ruiz. Yes. And the Toltec wisdom. It's words to live by for sure.
Absolutely. So, and if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Very simply, the lotuspath.love. Yes, that is my website. Everything is there. You can reach out to me directly for one-to-one. You can access my book, Sacred Connection. You can connect with me about the Sacred Connection community membership. There's an experience of being in a regular container with me. I'm available on all of the social media channels and the Love Messenger, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. And I am here on the planet offering twinkly tidbits. I started this on the winter solstice, and I declared that I would show up every day with today's twinkly tidbits. And it's about living this life and honoring what it is that we're here being.
I love it. And guys, those links will be in the notes in the comments. So thank you everybody for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. If this was of interest to you, give us a thumbs up. If you have a question, do let us know. If you know someone who could benefit from this, do share it out. And as always, subscribe so you know when the next episode is available. Bye-bye, Anne.
It's been an honor.
It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.